So if you spend any amount of time in the world of mental illness and talking to different people and their different beliefs, you'll get a lot of different reactions to whether psychologists, medications, clinical stuff is the way to go in treating mental health issues. So I just want to put my 2 cents worth in to you today, because I think it's important to understand that we all have our own perspectives. And while I've been hearing that psychologists are bad and they misdiagnose and this and that and this and that, I get it. I hear you. I understand what you're saying. However, let's talk empirical proof. For me, psychologist was the most helpful person I could have gone to. And I wouldn't be here today without two very, very special and intelligent psychologists. And they were the people that you least expect. Because when I got hurt, they were like, oh, look, it's this 30-year-old dude. Let's send him off to these guys that have been looking after veterans for 50 years. Well, they were the wrong people to see me. They didn't connect with me in any way, shape, or form. I'm pretty sure because I was referred to them with PTSD, but because I wasn't a veteran, they didn't really see not the point, but they didn't see how I could get as hurt as somebody, a veteran, possibly. But I want to go into that today because I saw some incredibly bad psychologists that have done damage that I still live with today. But as I said, I wouldn't be here without two very, very special psychologists who were the last people in the world that anybody expected me to connect with, let alone me. I was skeptical. And I'll tell you those stories in just a moment. Why am I telling you this story today? Why do I want you to hear this thing today? It's because when somebody is struggling to get better, they want to discount the things that are going to help them. So initially, medication is bad. Seeing a psychologist, what are they going to do for me? Why can't I just get over this thing? What I want to do today is I want to address a few of those things. And for those of you that are looking after people that live with mental illness, I want to give you an insight as to why they can seem resistant. It's like if somebody was drowning in the ocean, you throw them a life raft and they go, no, I'm waiting for a better life raft. You on the boat can't understand why they aren't grasping to this thing that's completely obvious to you. Going to talk about that today. Let's dive in and see what happens. Welcome to Mark My Words. Mark My Words is the story of my journey from a place where I was shattered to where I could live again. I was speaking to somebody the other day that does not like going to psychologists, doesn't like it, doesn't enjoy it at all. And I said, it's good for you because it worked for you. It just didn't work for me. And my wife jumped in and she went, hang on, you don't understand. Mark never wanted to go see his psychologist. It was always traumatic. It was always painful. And he always went because he knew that it was the best way that he knew to get better. I used the analogy in the opening. Somebody's drowning in the ocean. You throw them a life preserver. They push the life preserver away and go, I'm waiting for a lifeboat. So you throw them a lifeboat. They get the lifeboat. They go, no, I don't want this one. I want a bigger one. So you send them a bigger one. Then they find a reason why that one's not big enough or it's too big. And you on the boat, you're watching them drowning. And you're like, why aren't they grasping onto this thing that I know is going to help them? Obviously, metaphor. Talking about psychologists. You're a healthy person. You're like, the psychologist is there to help you. They're going to help you. Well, the reality of the psychology world is that the psychological process, the healing process, is a relationship. And you are not always going to get on with the person sitting across from you. And the other sad fact is that while there are bad dentists, there are bad plumbers, there's bad soldiers, there's bad sailors, there are bad psychologists, people that have got their qualifications but aren't really up to the job. Terrible for me to say that. But just because you've got a piece of paper behind you doesn't mean that you're going to be good at the job that you got that piece of paper for. Now, the other side of that, you might be a brilliant psychologist. You are not going to be able to treat every single person that walks through your door because you're either not going to be able to earn their trust, you don't connect, you simply don't like them. The psychological process, the clinical process is so personal that we forget that relational side to it. So if I walk into the room with somebody and we don't connect, I don't try and be friends with them. Like if I go to a dentist and he's like, oh, I don't know what this thing is for, and he gives you an injection and it hurts and I'm not going to go back to him. But if I go to a dentist that walks in, he sits me down, he explains to me what he's about to do. This is going to hurt, but it is going to help, and this is why, and this is why. That's the dentist I'm going to go with. And it's the same with the psychologist. I walked in and saw a guy, and I now know that he was treating me as if I'd been his patient for 6 or more months. It wasn't. It was like the second time I'd seen him. And he tried this thing on me, this psychological thing that actually works on some people. But for me, it caused damage. And it was this EDMR stuff. And it was this thing where what you do is you think about the worst possible thing, and then they do eye movements in front of you. Well, this guy made the mistake of doing like this to me. Now, at the time, I was in psychological distress after a violent traumatic attack. And here's a psychologist making me think about that worst moment. Keep your eyes open. I'm going to go like this. For those of you that are listening, I'm just wiggling my hands in front of the camera. For those of you that aren't watching on YouTube. And I just lost it. I ended up standing on the couch. My fists were cocked. I was going to punch this guy because it was just the wrong treatment at the wrong time. I never went and saw that guy again. I felt I had to, but I got permission. Didn't need permission, but I got internal permission by asking my wife, saying, this guy upset me more than helped me. And she went, well, we'll just find somebody else. I was like, okay, cool. Now, I went through a number of psychologists for a number of different reasons. One being that I got hurt in November. If you're going to get hurt psychologically throughout the year, do not get hurt at the end of the year, because all the psychologists are closing down their practices so that they can go on holidays. So I couldn't go see the good ones. I could only go see the ones that were available. And they were terrible for me. Just didn't mesh. One woman and I did not get anything she was saying. Another woman, she just completely misunderstood what I was there for, just did not get it. Then one day I walked into a psychologist's office, and this is after I'm at the point where I'm going to give up. I'm done. Psychology is a joke. It's the worst. And this little red-headed girl comes and sits down, and she looks like she's 22. She's probably more than that. But to me, she looked young. And I was almost about to, just on the side of her, just go, this is not going to work. Then she opened her mouth and she did that thing that I was talking about at the beginning. She spoke to me in a way that I understood, that let me know that she was on my side and that she didn't understand where I was at, and she was hoping that we could work through it together. Well, all this spoke to me. She became an incredible influence on my life, an incredibly helpful influence. And I would have gone to see her for the next 20 years, but we moved towns. So what I'm saying here is the person that you're caring for may have had one of these experiences where they're dealing with somebody that just didn't get them. They didn't click. And that might have happened again and again and again. And you're thinking that they don't want to get help. They absolutely want to get help. They just know that the help that they've been given in different places has not worked. So somebody's drowning in the ocean, you throw them a life preserver. It might be the 14th life preserver that they've got. They've figured out that when it gets waterlogged, it just sinks. So they're better off just treading water. They got more of a chance. They feel better if they just tread water. They feel safer. They're still going to drown and they know it and they want to get out of the water, but they don't believe that the assistance that you're giving in the form that you're giving is going to help them. Like, okay, well, this psychology nonsense hasn't worked. Maybe I need to try mushroom. Maybe I need to try holistic. Maybe I need to try this. It's like, yeah, okay, I get that. And that stuff works for some people. But for somebody who was like me, that was wounded, that was hurt, that was damaged, I needed to see a psychologist. I needed to work through those things that I was dealing with. Now, as I said, I would have gone to see the same psychologist for the rest of my life, no question asked, but we had to move cities. My injury was such that I lost my income. I wasn't able to work. So we ended up having to move back to my wife's hometown to live with her parents. It's the only option that we had. And I went through the psychologist roulette once again. Went and saw 3 or 4 people, but I knew that within 5 minutes of being with these people, you're not going to be able to help me. You're not going to be able to help me. I don't like you. I am never going to be able to sit in the same room with you and trust you because there's something about you that it just doesn't work for me. Then I walked into a room. A pretty little blonde girl walks into the room. I look at my wife. I'm like, this is going to be another dud. And she just picked up where my other psychologist had left off. Exactly the same way of treating me. Mark, I don't understand what you've been through and I want to hear about it. And I hope that we can work through it together. She spoke the language that made sense to me, that drew me in, that made me safe, made me feel safe enough to, okay, I can trust this person. And through my psychological journey with her, she had her first kid, she had her second kid. I got to basically watch her family grow. And at the same time, she was able to help me work through the things that I needed to work through. The psychological process, the clinical process is yucky. It's horrible. It feels degrading. It feels demeaning. One thing I used to say to my wife is I hate going to the psychologist because, yeah, I'm in pain, but it's at this kind of baseline level. It's at this level that it's just under the surface. I know it's there. It's not going away, but I can deal with it. And as soon as I walk into the psychologist's office, I'm going to be dredging all this crap up. I'm going to be bringing it all up. I'm going to be making myself feel terrible again. And I don't want to do that. But I knew that I had to. I knew that it was the way that I was going to get better. And I knew that as much as I disliked it, as much as I hated every minute of being there, it was good for me and it was what I needed. I can understand when I talk to somebody and they go, psychologists are terrible. Yeah. The psychological profession is just terrible. Yes, it is. But for me, without these 2 wonderful psychologists, I wouldn't be able to be doing anything that I'm doing now. I needed to go through that process. And again, I never once woke up in the morning and went, yay, it's psychology day. It was always you'd wake up in the morning and it's like, oh, a load of bricks would land on you. Oh man, in 2 hours, I'm going to have to go and dredge this stuff up. The psychological process is difficult. It is hard. But it's harder still when you don't understand that the reason that you're not perhaps not moving forward is that you are not with the right psychologist. There are going to be people that are going to be listening to this. And I get it every week. Whenever I mention psychologists, I get inundated with people that are like, no, you need the holistic approach. No, you need to try mushrooms. You need to try microdosing. You need to try marijuana. You need to try this because it didn't work for them. And what I don't like is people saying, well, didn't work for me, so it won't work for you. I want to be one of those people that will tell you that the psychological journey was not easy. That clinical journey was not easy. It was not comfortable. It was not in any way desirable, but it was necessary. And I wouldn't be here today without these two wonderful women that I will never forget. And I'm not using their names. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm allowed to. I would. Maybe if you DM me, I'll tell you who they are, but I don't have permission to share their thing. But it's not about them. Pod is not about them. It's about their impact on me and where my life would be if it wasn't for them. And it's why the title of the things today is, yeah, psychologists are terrible, but they're still necessary. And without them, I wouldn't even have a life. I wouldn't have purpose. And yeah, there were questions that they missed. My first psychologist, there was questions that, you know, we just didn't get to in time because so much of my journey was about just managing the symptoms. How do I stop being angry all the time? How do I stop getting into these road rage incidents? How do I stop my fight or flight putting me into these incidences where I'm getting into physical fights with people? Where what what do I need to do to get out of bed in the morning? You know, just finding out these little things. And as I said, there was questions with the first one that we never answered. And the biggest one was, how do you view yourself? If you're caring for somebody, I would imagine that if they're resistant to getting help, getting treatment, they might be like me. I didn't see the point of fixing up something that was so broken, which was me. It's like you got a really beat up old car. You don't love it, you don't care for it. It's just beat up and you just trade it in and buy a new one. However, if the car is a classic, if it's one that you love, if it's vintage, you'll spend the time fixing it up. You'll deal with its quirks. You'll deal with its flaws and its misunderstandings, but you'll bring it back to as good a quality as you possibly can, something that you can be proud of. And that was what my psychological journey was like. It was like saying, okay, I'm this old beat up car. I love it. Well, I didn't love me, but I knew it was the only car I had. And I knew that I had the ability to fix it up. So I did. Yeah, it's still the same beat up car. It's still got some of the scars, but it's something that I can be proud of now. I can be positive about where my life has come to, where I've gotten to. And it was only because I was willing to put myself through this journey. So I want to leave you with this. And I've said it a couple of times. Here's me reinforcing what I've already said. Psychologists are terrible. The psychological process is terrible. It's horrible. Even if you've got the nicest, most wonderful, most caring psychologist that gives you lollies, does all this stuff to make you feel great, it's still a terrible process. It's still hard to go through. But for many of us, it's necessary. And it's a box that you need to check well. Now, if I had gone and seen this old guy and he had did his EDMR stuff, wiggling his fingers in my eyes, and I had walked out of that and went, psychology is a lie, it's never going to work, I would have been slightly justified in my own eyes. Because I'm like, yeah, it didn't work. But it was just one person and it was one experience. And I had to look beyond that one experience to go, okay, well, maybe the next one will be better. And it was. The psychological process is hard, it's traumatic, it's difficult. It's never fun. You're never going to look forward to it. But it is necessary for many of us. And if you vehemently disagree with what I've said today, I get you. I understand completely. And maybe microdosing did work for you. Maybe not talking about your mental health worked for you. But with 9 people in Australia today ending their lives through suicide, there is a lot of people that stuff didn't work for. And if they had access to and the motivation to be a part, or the opportunity, the resources to, maybe some of those people would still be alive today. I want to thank you for checking out. Mark my words. Like, share, subscribe. Hate saying that. Hate it. But when you do it, it makes me feel good. Got a bunch of new people that have been liking us and stuff like that. I want to welcome you to the Mark My Words community. I want to thank you for being part of it. I'm going to go. Have a great week. I look forward to speaking to you again next week. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to Mark My Words. I'd like to thank my producer, Meredith Brosnan, and also Torian, Kevin, and Lorraine. And I can't forget the band Adelaide, who allows us to use their song as our theme.